first got involved with Gaelic games, first started playing with Gaelic games, actually out in the green in front of my house. We used to play soccer on the pitch, just or on the grass, kind of just in front of our house. One of the days, one of my friend's dads came out and was kind of like, "What are you doing playing soccer? Have you ever played GA? Would nobody ever teach you to play GA?" So he kind of showed us a few of the rules, and I just thought it was really exciting. I really liked it. And then in primary school, one of our teachers mentioned that the local club, St. Bridget's, was starting up their first girls team. So this would have been probably in about 2000, 2001, which kind of shows, I suppose, just how far it's come really since then. That was only the first year the women's team was being set up. And that was the first time that I started. So that year, then I went down and I joined the under-12s team from there, which is, would be kind of a late starting now, I suppose, if you think about it. But yeah, and then I suppose my earliest memory of going to GAA matches was with my uncle. He brought us to watch a Dublin versus Kildare match, I think, in Croke Park. It was one of the Leinster. I don't know if it was a final or a semi-final, but my biggest memory is that there was a draw match, and I couldn't understand that we went home and that we didn't automatically get tickets to the replay. It was like I felt like I'd been cheated because there was no result. But yeah, so they were my two earliest memories. Well, first off, my dad would have probably been a huge influence on me. He would have brought me out kind of kick practicing, and any time I wanted to practice my kicks, he'd always be willing to bring me out and give time. Moving on, then I suppose underage, we were lucky enough at minor level to have Martina Farrell, who would have previously been a Dublin ladies captain. She won the first Leinster championship with Dublin. She was a captain that year, and she was involved with our minor team, and it was just a massive influence on me. I think she gave me an awful lot of belief in my capabilities and what I could achieve, and really coached me really well, I suppose, to play to my strengths and to use my strengths, my speed, and things like that. So she would have been a massive influence on me. And then I suppose I've been lucky enough as well to play with an awful lot of the same group of girls since I was under 14, since we first started playing Dublin together. Sinead Goldrick and Eve McAvoy, Fiona Hudson, we all kind of came up through the ranks together and played senior together. So they've, been a massive influence on me as well throughout my career. It's been great to kind of have that constant support and constant I suppose structure and company as well coming up. We all made those steps together, so it was nice to kind of have that comfort. So as mentioned, the under 14 teams were the first time I played with Dublin. I don't actually remember when I got the call. I think my club manager at that stage might have just contacted me or contacted my dad to say, would I be willing to come and join the team or go for trials. I think the first match we played would have been a friendly. It's probably the first time I put on the Dublin jersey was a friendly in Westmanstown against Mayo. But I think when we first got called up to the senior team, we actually all got letters to our houses, which probably shows kind of again the change and how long ago that was in 2006. So the incoming manager Jerry McGill sent a letter to I suppose everybody that he kind of thought would have potential in coming on the team and had a big development team. So yeah, that's something that it's, I don't think I have it anymore. It's unfortunate, but I remember just like reading it and being like, it's definitely the seniors. It definitely like, are you sure it's not just the minors? So yeah, that was a massive moment. And I was lucky enough to have a few appearances in the league. I think I made my first senior debut against Sligo in the league. It was a match away. I actually started as a wing back. Um, that day, but yeah, thankfully that didn't last too long. I quickly found my way back up into the forwards. The first time that I visited Croke Park was, as I previously mentioned, with my uncle. It was a championship provincial match that I went with to watch Dublin play Kildare. But my first, like, I have a very kind of vague memory of it. My first proper memory of probably going to like a big serious match in Croke Park was that my dad brought me to, I think, the ladies All Ireland final. It was Mayo versus Monaghan. My parents are both from Mayo. They're both mad about Gaelic football. So kind of it was any hint, any hint of success that Mayo might have, they're keen to be involved and keen to support. So I think he probably knew the influence that would have on me. In fairness, he recognised that the importance of having female role models and looking up and seeing females footballers playing in what's in my opinion the greatest stadium that we have. So that was really exciting, and to kind of to watch, to watch your team win, to watch Mayo win that day, and to kind of, I suppose, to get to witness players like Horace Staunton performing that day was phenomenal. Yeah, and I suppose, little did I know, I suppose, that time the impact that would have on me. We played Cummin Bun School, which would be the primary school's competition. And actually, we had a pretty good camogie team. We had an okay football team. We had a better camogie team. So my first ever match that I played in Croke Park was actually in the newly renovated. It was, I think, it might have been one of the first matches that had been played. So we played across the pitch in Croke Park in a camogie match. I unfortunately didn't have very good camogie skills, so in the first 10 minutes, I went to kick the sliotar, and somebody came in with their hurl and hit my foot, and that kind of put paid to my Croke Park debut. But I remember just, for ages afterwards, I couldn't believe, I was telling everybody, that, like, yeah, I played in Croke Park. I played a match in Croke Park. We got into the dressing rooms. Our whole school came along and cheered us on. It was phenomenal. And even at that age, to get on the pitch and feel how dwarfed you are on the pitch by the stadium was, absolutely phenomenal. If someone had said to me the first time I put on the Dublin jersey, the first time I played with Dublin, the journey that I would have gone on from there, and thankfully the successes, the experiences, so it's the experiences, both good and bad, that I would have been able to enjoy and experience in a Dublin jersey. I would have absolutely bitten their hand off. I mean, for me, just getting on an under 14 team was such a big achievement. Um, I couldn't believe that I was lucky enough to be considered capable to play for Dublin, to represent Dublin, and then um, to win an All Ireland with our under 14 team as well just seemed so phenomenal. And then as it went on, we were lucky enough to win again at under 14, under 16, and we'd such a strong bond with the girls that we played with. The likes of, Sinead Goldrick and Niamh McAvoy, and to have kind of made the journey then onto senior. I think, if you said, looking around that dressing room at under 14, that the girls in that room would have achieved what they had with Dublin, I don't think any of us would have believed it. So yeah, like, looking back, it's phenomenal to think that it's all happened. I've said it before. It's really beyond anything that I would have ever dreamed would have happened. You dream about playing in Croke Park on an All Ireland final day, and to have gotten to experience that as many times as I did. Even the losses, were all fantastic memories, and to then have finally won as well was just phenomenal. And to, I suppose, to got to experience it as many times as I did was just, and to have experienced it with my family as well, and to share those moments with them as well. It's just, it's, I'm so thankful that I've kind of made those memories, and to be able to, anytime that you go back into Croke Park, to be able to kind of recall those days is, yeah, it would almost put hairs up on the back of your neck. Like, it's, yeah, it's just amazing. So I suppose for us, the kind of preparation would have really started the week before. So obviously, All Ireland final day is a little bit different. You've your normal warm up, and then you do the parade around the stadium. You meet the president. So there's a lot to kind of get through before you'd throw in, and there's kind of a lot to contend with that would be different from your normal warm up. So in 2010, Martin Kennedy came in and kind of, I think, was really ahead of the game in terms of that, and went through everything with us. We had our A team and our B team. We were playing Tyrone that year, so the girls in the A team had their Dublin jerseys on, and we borrowed jerseys from my club, which is St. Bridget's, who wear red and white, and they had red and white on. We went out at exactly the same time that we were going to go out with. We warmed up in the exactly same dimensions of a area that we would have warmed up in the warm up room. We met the president. One of our kit men pretended to be the president, came around and met everybody. We paraded around and we timed everything out, so there was nothing that was going to shock us that day. And that's something that we kind of inherited then, and did for every All Ireland that we came to the following year for the week before. So we had a trial match the week before at the exact same time, just so you get everything right, so you get all your food timing right and everything like that. On the morning of the All Ireland final, we obviously all stay at home the night before because we live in Dublin. So um, there is usually a banquet dinner afterwards, and it's very strict that you have your dress and your heels in your bag for training on Friday, and that's already dealt with. We usually meet generally in DCU, probably 2 hours or so beforehand, have a little bit of food together. If it suits your timing, usually have a meeting and go through tactics, and that's something that we do for every match. So kind of what we try to do is not to upset our rhythm too much, because I think if you start to change things around and start to make it into a big occasion, sometimes you can buy into it and it can kind of just feed into the nerves a little bit. So we try to keep everything as normal as we would from what we would have called match 1 to match 5 or match 6, which would be the kind of last match of the season. But there's obviously things that are that little bit different. The main thing being is that you get a police escort from wherever you're leaving from, wherever you're getting on the bus, all the way to Croke Park. So for us, it was only a small 10-minute journey, but it's strange. You kind of leave your very isolated and your very protected area in DCU, where you've everything set, everything's the same, there's nothing different, and then you get on the bus, the nerves start, you hear the Garda siren start up, the bus flies, you see them flying on, and we kind of take the route up from DCU through Glasnevin up Dorset Street, so you're kind of getting closer and closer to Croke Park, and all of a sudden you might see one or two supporters, and then you see a few more supporters, and then you start seeing kind of streets of them, and they've all their flags, and they spot the bus and they're waving, and at that stage it kind of starts to feel that little bit different, and then you go under the into the bellows, I suppose, of Croke Park, and get your bag out. There's video cameras, TG Cahir are there, and you can hear the noise from outside because there's a few matches on beforehand. The intermediates are playing. You can kind of start to feel the sense of Croke Park, and you go into the changing room, and there's usually a good bit of nervous energy around. But what I like to do, and a few of us like to do, is just go out. You can sit up into the crowd if you want. So I kind of like to go out and just get a sense of the crowd at that stage. See how the pitch is going. Is there a bounce of the ball? Does it look like it's cutting up? Does it look slippy? You're still kind of deciding at that stage, will you wear studs or moldies? But then yeah, it's back into the dressing room, and into the warm up area, and you only have a certain amount of time on the pitch in Croke Park, because obviously they need to time it between the medal presentation, the cup presentation previously, and then to allow them to have their celebrations and to get out. So it's usually 20 minutes, so you can't really do much of your normal warm up out there. So you're in a room that's probably, I'd say, maybe 13 meters by 6 meters across. There's 30 people in there. It gets warm. There's an awful lot of nervous energy, but yeah, by the time you're finished that warm up, you're just ready to burst out under the tunnel. And like, I think what's one of the really special things about ladies football final in Croke Park is the vast majority of the people who attend are young female footballers who are maybe attending their first ever All Ireland final. So the noise is massive, and it's kind of the one thing that hits you. It's just this absolute wall of noise as you walk out, and will run out usually in most cases, and it's like a feeling I've never ever experienced before. It's just that rush of noise and adrenaline. It's great fun, really, but it can be, the first time you do it, it can be a little bit intimidating, and I suppose that's kind of the one benefit of getting to experience it a few times. You kind of get into your rhythm, what to expect. And it's something that I kind of think I helped. I used to probably just get a little bit too nervous and try to stay too focused the whole time and get the warm up perfect and stay in the zone all the time. But as I went on, I kind of found you a little bit too wound up almost doing that. So I just remember in 2017 just being so relaxed, going through my warm up, getting a bit of a touch and a bit of a feeling, and then just really enjoying the parade and walking around. It was the first time in 2017 that they'd opened the upper tier for a ladies football final. So the canal end, or the Cusack Stadium straight across, was completely full, and I never would have even dreamed that I would have played in a Croke Park that was that full. There was 45,000 people. So I just walking around, parading around, the sun shining, flags blaring. It was brilliant. It was really, I think it's one thing that I'm really glad that I was able to kind of temper and take in as the years went on, and just really enjoy and kind of, I suppose, treasure those moments and those feelings, and kind of take all the sights and the sounds in of it, because it can go past you very quickly, and it's a day that can get away from you very quickly as well. So I'm really glad that I was kind of able to take those in for the past few years. The dressing rooms in Croke Park, I suppose, before an All Ireland final, it's a really special place. There's an awful lot of kind of nervous energy going around. The first thing that I like to do when I got in Croke Park is that obviously put my bag down, take a look at the jersey, because it's a jersey you get to, it's a a special jersey you have for the All Ireland final. It's one that you get to keep as well, which I think is really special. And then I like to go out and just take in a sense of the stadium as well. Kind of the intermediate matches on, so kind of just temper the nerves a little bit by going out and sitting in, getting a sense of the crowd. Having a look at the pitch, seeing, does it look like a good bounce of the ball? Does it look like the girls are slipping or not? And then after that, get in and just do your kind of usual personal mobilization that you need to do. And then eventually, have a quiet word with a few people, but you try not to change, I suppose, your routine too much from what you would before matches, because you don't want to build up the nerves or try to treat the match as anything that'll be different either. There's a warm up room then in Croke Park just beside the change rooms, which is AstroTurf on it. So there'd usually be a few people in there. We usually our stats man would have put on some music. He'd have kind of a special playlist that we get going, and then we'd usually do a group mobilization that would start off very slowly, just kind of deep breathing together. Then just some hip mobilization, some activation stuff. Then eventually it would kind of build slowly, and one of the same music that we always play would be Insomnia. So that kind of, if you ever listen to it, it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds, and I just, you do like this fast feet and this quick jumping reaction. And I just remember, getting there, you just feel the energy building and building and the music building to this crescendo, and you're just, by the end of it, your muscles are fired, you're ready to go, you've got, your first wind gone, you're ready to just burst out the door. There's usually one or two kind of quiet words from either Mick or Greg, and then from Sinead or Lindsay or Goldie, whoever, myself as well, who would have been captain throughout the day, throughout the years, and then it's just straight onto the pitch. Yeah, but it's a really special place beforehand. There's so much excitement, a bit of nerves, but there's just kind of that quiet nod to everyone. You're kind of glad you're here, you're ready to go. Yeah, it's a really, really special place. I've been lucky enough that I think I've played in 9 All Ireland finals at senior level. So, I played in 2009, 2010 when I probably would have been very inexperienced, and just really kind of happy to be there and kind of happy to come along, and on a sub, and hoping to get a few minutes and be able to have a bit of an impact. Came back as more of an established player in the team then 2014 and 15. I think I almost probably got myself too nervous or too hyped up beforehand. I think I thought that I had to just be ready to go and full of energy, just ready to explode as soon as I got in the pitch. And I think sometimes you'd almost expend too much energy. The nervous energy would kind of almost drain you too much. You'd be getting yourself so hyped and trying to get everything so perfect. And then actually, I could feel it myself before I'd even go to the match. I'd be snappy at people and, just really tense at home. And then in 2017, I think, we'd lost 3 matches. I'd probably tried to go into an All Ireland prepping every which way. So um, I remember just being so relaxed going into it. I think I was living with my parents at the time, and they were probably wondering why I was so easygoing and so relaxed. I think I watched a movie and made breakfast for a few people that morning, and um, we had a kind of a team group presentation that I took for the forwards. I just remember making a few jokes and being very relaxed coming in. And to be honest, it was all just about enjoying it and try not to get too wound up in the occasion. And I think that just suits the way that I play. I think, just not expending too much nervous energy and not kind of unnecessarily getting yourself wound up. And, I can remember just even, going through the warm up and getting good warm up, and then allowing myself to calm down and, not getting too edgy about the meeting of the president, getting my breathing and stuff under control, and then, really enjoying and taking in the parade. Whereas before I would have just kind of almost, been waiting to get it over and done with, and making sure I wasn't too cool, and, trying to stay on my toes and do a few jumps, and really just kind of wasting energy, I suppose, and probably getting myself out of the zone really more than anything. So yeah, I think, it stood to me. I had a good match that day, and it was something that I just went into from then on. I think personally, I just tried to enjoy the day and stay as relaxed as it was. I'd have not as strict enough, but I suppose I'd have a kind of very defined pattern of what I'd eat the night before that morning, and I'd pack my bag, the gear that I'd bring, when I'd eat my meal beforehand. So I think, having kind of that set pattern for every single match just helped me relax into All Ireland final day, and meant that there wasn't anything that was too different about it by the time that I came to it. But again, I think, a lot of that is probably, fortunate to have experienced it before. And look, I suppose when you go in 2017, I had nothing to lose from relaxing, because sure, we lost three before by doing it the other way. So yeah, I think, it's something that a few people I've heard said, both males, some of the from the lads as well. I think Jack McCaffrey had said it, that he really tries to almost wind himself down coming into an All Ireland final day, because really the match is never won in the first 5 or 10 minutes. You kind of you build into a match. So I think you have to just temper that as well coming into it. And I think it's probably something that does come with a little bit of experience. I think standing on the pitch, or even just running through the tunnel, waiting for the ball to throw in, it's such a mixed bag of feelings. You've obviously got a little bit of nerves. You're excited. There's a great sound system in Croke Park that blares music throughout. And I remember, I think it was Lana Del Rey, Summertime Sadness was playing, coming through the tunnel. I just remember thinking, like, this is just so much fun. Like, I was like, I am so lucky that I get to do that, and to do this. You hear the cheer of the crowd. We've been lucky enough, the weather has generally been nice any of the finals that I've played in, bar 2019. It's such a brilliant occasion. It's like, if you could bottle it and put that, put it put it on for sale, I'd say it would sell out. It's really, really special. It's a complete buzz. Like, it's one that's kind of hard to come down from, to be honest, if it goes your way, for a good few days. I played in my first All Ireland final in 2009. We played against Cork, and we played again in 2010. I was, for those years, I was a little bit of a peripheral player. I suppose I was quite young. I was 18, 19, playing in those finals. I, was kind of getting 10 minutes towards the end of the game. So I suppose, you do feel almost a little bit helpless for most of it. You're watching on, just willing your team, and you're kind of hoping that if you get a chance to go in, that you'll give them a hand. I think I got 5 minutes at the end of the 2009 final. We were a point down, and unfortunately, Cork just held the ball. I didn't really get a chance to have much of an impact. In 2010, the match was really nearly over, probably by half time, but it was definitely over by the time that I got on the pitch. So, I didn't really feel myself that I made a huge contribution to it. But I suppose, looking back on it, when you're, I suppose, a little bit of a more established player, you really appreciate that, like, whatever happens or whatever occurs on All Ireland final day, it's not because of the players that are, the 15 players that are on the team on our final day. It's built from the squad matches that you play, the weeks coming up to it, the competition, how you push each other on, the camaraderie, the fun in the dressing room, that just the quality of training that there is. So I suppose, looking back, I probably, if I could tell myself anything in those years, it probably would have been to be proud and, appreciate the contribution that you've made to those teams. 2014, 2015, and 2016, I suppose 14 and 15, 14, we were probably, extremely happy and proud to be there. Unfortunately, the match went the way it did. We were probably a little bit naive in throwing a 10-point lead away. But for me, it was my first kind of All Ireland final that I played in as a starter. So it was, it was always going to be quite special. 2015, to be honest, I actually haven't even looked back on that match. For me personally, it wasn't a match that I thought that I played well in at all. So I think, just from from a personal point of view, that was, disappointing. I think to kind of go back and lose again and kind of make the same mistakes again were heartbreaking. And then in 2016, I was a captain that year, which was just a massively proud moment for me, and something that I'll always look back on and cherish. It's a phenomenal thing to say that you captained your team and led your team around Croke Park on All Ireland final day. And I remember looking back on that match and just being so unbelievably proud of the effort that the girls put in. They just played their heart out, putting their heads in where, people probably wouldn't put their feet. They would have died for that ball. And just unfortunately, we just didn't get over the line on the day again. We probably didn't learn from mistakes before. And it's standing on the pitch at the end of All Ireland final day in Croke Park. It's said before, but it is just so lonely, to the victor, the spoils, and the Dublin supporters leave, when when the other team have gone to collect their trophy, it's all smiles and, elation really on their side. And you just go into a dressing room that was filled with such, I suppose, expectation and excitement and energy and buzz only an hour ago, and all of a sudden it's just deathly quiet. It's it's really heartbreaking. And then to come back in 2017, and I suppose for me, just that contrast, and that, I suppose, even just the general feeling of that day. We went in there so prepared. We knew exactly what we would do for every single eventuality. And we were just so tight as a group as well, I think. And we had said, I think for me, that match is so special. I think to finally have gotten over the line, to kind of just banish whatever demons we had within ourselves of, whether we were good enough to achieve an All Ireland final. Were gone. Just the pure mad elation that happened. I think we didn't know where to go, what to do, who to hug. I don't think I even actually saw my family after that match. It was just, you kind of just run around in every direction. And the noise and the vibrancy and just the joy in the dressing room afterwards with the cup is really, really special. And then I suppose to be able to have repeated that in 2018, it's funny, you kind of, yeah, not have a little bit more sense, but you're kind of conscious. You're like, no, I didn't see my family last time, so I'll go over. And it was the first thing I wanted to do was to find them and to get kind of hugs and pictures with them afterwards. So yeah, look, they've just been absolutely phenomenal days. And yeah, like, I, again, just so happy to have been able to experience them. And I think, the fact that they've all been so different, and the different journeys that I've been on throughout them, are something as well that I think I really cherish, and it probably helped me to celebrate the good days even more. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I think what's brilliant about the ladies football is there's a countdown timer, so there's a hooter when the time is done. So we've been lucky in all of the finals that we've won. We've kind of had a comfortable enough margin going into the final 10 seconds. So you can hear the crowd are watching the clock, and you can hear the kind of countdown start. The five, four, three, two, one, and then the buzzer goes, and that's it. It's game over. You're not looking at the ref open; they'll blow their whistle. Um, so yeah, you can just kind of really kind of just take it in. To be honest, it's such a mixed feeling, especially in 2017. It was just probably relief, exhilaration, a little bit of exhaustion, just pure joy. I think nearly every feeling washed over all of us that day. We didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. I think we couldn't really believe that we'd done it. But yeah, it's just, it's just unbelievable. I think, to know that you finally done it, to get those big group hugs, the big cheers, to get to walk up the steps of Hogan and lift the trophy is brilliant. But yeah, I suppose you kind of, exactly, and very sharply how it feels to be on the other team as well. So I suppose I'd always kind of try to take a moment, and I think we've been playing for so long, you get to know a lot of the girls that are playing on the other team as well. So I always think it's something that I always appreciated when I was on the other side, is if when they took time out just to acknowledge, I suppose, the loss that you've suffered, and how you're feeling, and the disappointment. So I'd kind of always make it a point to try to get over to members of the other team, especially whoever you've marked and things like that, and just say, look, head up, hard luck. I know I'm the last face you want to see, or like, I know exactly how you're feeling. It's you kind of just hope the ground will swallow you up, or you want to just get off this pitch as soon as possible. You don't want to stand and watch Dublin go up and lift the trophy and give you your three cheers. But so yeah, that would kind of be something that I always be conscious of as well. But yeah, like, to be honest, walking around afterwards and meeting all the the little fans, and letting them, hold the trophy, or showing them the trophy, and then again getting in and seeing your family and giving them that first hug as well, because they very acutely go on the journey with you. They see ups and downs, and probably sometimes they see more of the ugly side of it than your teammates do. They're kind of they're almost your sounding board, and your agony aunts when things aren't going well. So um it's great to be able to share it with them as well. And it definitely was something that I missed from the match last year. It was bizarre to get in a car and go home and meet your family at home afterwards. But yeah, look, I was thankful even that we could do that. It certainly was probably one of the most unusual championships that I've played in. I suppose I was going from working in an ICU kind of during the day and at weekends, and then hoping, I suppose, that you wouldn't bring anything home first of all, and then into the changing room as well. Kudos to our medical team, and to the management team as well for really just organizing everything so well. But I suppose it is, you do kind of lose that. We were split up into three changing rooms. We had our meetings in kind of three separate groups. So, you do kind of lose that little bit of, tight togetherness. We weren't traveling to matches together. We all traveled individually. Um, there was no kind of eating together afterwards. There was no, even after a match, going for drinks or going for a coffee after training. So um in some ways it felt a little bit sterile, and I suppose a little bit kind of separated from each other to some extent. Um, then even just, we played one match in on Halloween, actually, in Cavan up in Breffni Park, and then a few weeks later we played a match there again, and there was we stopped in a garage beforehand, and there was Christmas carols playing, and Christmas decorations up, and we were playing an All Ireland semi final. It felt very strange. It was almost dystopian. Um, and then, yeah, just I suppose the eeriness of even when you came out, and I think some of the, with the water breaks, I think they did kind of change the dynamic of the matches a little bit, and probably played probably into the hands more of the kind of more experienced teams who were able to close matches out, because it probably took the momentum a little bit from the other team away. And yeah, especially the All Ireland final day in Croke Park, to run out to the empty stadium. Um, credit to Croke Park and to the Ladies Gaelic football. They did kind of make it as good an occasion as they could of it, in terms of just banners and flags and messages and things like that. But you kind of, that's the fun of All Ireland final day, is the noise and the colour, and because you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for the crowd and the people that are there to cheer you on. You're doing it to represent your county, and when those things aren't there, it does kind of feel a little bit set back. But look, I suppose it had been a challenging year for us. We started training back in January, and there we were almost 12 months later. We had been separated for so long. There was so much uncertainty of what would happen. So our kind of focus on was that, look, for this one year, whereas previously our focus would have been on representing our county and our families. We were like, look, this one is for us. This one is for the challenges that we have overcome as a team. And I think that very much brought us together in the lead up to the final. And it was actually just very nice once the final whistle went. A lot of the time, everybody kind of separates in different directions, either go to the crowd or to their family, to their friends that are in the crowds. We all just stayed together. We had very nice moments of the pitch, just kind of properly soaking it in and soaking in the afterglow of it. And then even in the changing rooms afterwards, there was nowhere really that we had to be. So we just really got to cherish it and enjoy it. And look, unfortunately, there was no banquet, and there was no night out afterwards, and there was no kind of the usual fun that would go in with an All Ireland final. But I suppose getting back home to your family then, and kind of reliving it, I suppose, and chatting through it with them was really special. But then, look, I was back in work the next week because things were obviously ramping up again, and that kind of did take the sheen off it, I suppose, and kind of put reality very much back into everything. And yeah, look, the 3 months that followed in work were, unfortunately, definitely some of the most challenging that I've ever faced, physically and emotionally. Um, But I suppose coming towards the end of that, the vaccine started to be rolled out, and you can see the numbers come back down. So, when you look at kind of coming into the latter stages of the football championship now, it kind of seems to be, this such a stark contrast, I suppose, to how it finished last year, kind of going into the depths of winter with numbers kind of going up, and now you see the vaccine numbers coming down. Things look a little bit more positive. The weather is very good. So, yeah, it's a big contrast. I suppose it reflects a very hopeful contrast this time round. The decision to retire was a tough one. It certainly wasn't one that I took lightly at all. I had moved down to Cork in 2019, and I probably thought that maybe that was going to be the year that I just wouldn't have been able to do it. I'd come off of the back of two very good seasons, and I think for me to have had to finish it at that stage would felt like it had been taken away from me rather than that I had been able to make the decision myself. So thankfully, my partner, my family, Dublin, and also the people that I worked with were very accommodating in providing me, I suppose, the time to play with Dublin that year. And then I struggled a little bit with injury, but it was a brilliant year again, and one that we got to win the All Ireland final again. And personally, it was great to then experience I suppose winning the Club All Ireland final with Mournabbey, which was such a nice end to my year in Cork, and it was great to have that group and that support and kind of that little community down there as well. It was great to really experience it. But I suppose it was stressful and strenuous, kind of getting up and back down the road and trying to balance everything again. 2020, I was more than happy to, I suppose, in my head, give it one last go and kind of have it more on my own terms, to be settled in Dublin and kind of be able to give it a good shot. I think I felt in 2019 I had one foot in two places, and I wasn't really able to give it the attention that I'd like to give an intercounty career. And I think that it warrants, if you're going to be starting, you should really be able to dedicate the time that you'd expect from your teammates. Of course, COVID kind of put pay to that in the first half of the year, and then coming back, the condensed championship, I suppose, the challenges that were going on with work and things like that. But I had it in my head, I think that was probably going to be my last year. I kind of knew just not the stresses, but I think just the organization kind of going behind trying to arrange work and around training, and just missing out on things like family or spending time with my partner or friends and things like that were kind of starting to wane a little bit, and the enjoyment that I was getting out of football kind of wasn't matching with what I was putting into it. So yeah, look, it was something that I sat on over the course of the winter to make sure that it was the right decision. And I suppose with lockdown, it probably delayed and gave me a little bit more time to think. And I think I knew when the announcement had come in that the intercounty teams were allowed to be back training, I just didn't have that appetite to go back. And I had the conversation with Mick, and he was completely understanding and supportive of it, which was great, because you kind of, it means that I suppose that things end on a good note from that point of view. But I think that what I'm just most happiest with, and I suppose really lucky with, is that I was able to just do it, I suppose, on my own terms. And it was a decision that I was able to come with, and kind of have a lot of, I suppose, peace with, and have a kind of peace of mind that I was happy that I'd made the right decision for me. It's definitely been a strange transition, I suppose, transitioning from player to medic, and to backroom team member. I suppose you kind of go from having captained the team and playing with a lot of the girls for so many years, and being on the team for, I think, 13 or 14 years, to having to take a step back, and I suppose you just kind of have to find those boundaries for yourself as well. I suppose one of the great things is that the girls so well. You're not coming into a new team trying to build up new relationships. And I suppose for the girls as well, I'm someone that they can hopefully feel comfortable with and trust, and know that I've got their best interests. You kind of, you understand the ethos of the team, and you respect the team environment as well, which I think is important, and was important to Mick too. And yeah, look, it's just been something that I've really enjoyed, actually. It's been a really nice way to kind of stay in touch with the girls and to see the girls. And Look, I kind of said to Mick if there was anything he ever needed, not to hesitate to give me a shout. So it's nice to kind of, I suppose, still be considered useful in some ways. But yeah, look, there's a fantastic backroom team there in Dublin, so it's really enjoyable just to kind of get a sense to be a part of. I was lucky enough to have played with Mourneabbey ladies football team when I was down in Cork in 2019. They were, generous enough to let me join and train with them for the year. They'd obviously had a phenomenal journey the year before. They won the All Ireland final after having lost it, I think, nearly four times. So they were coming off the back of that. Mourneabbey's a very, very tight football team. They're very close. They've had a lot of experiences, kind of ups and downs together. But they've come through. They won Junior All Ireland and Intermediate All Ireland, so they're a very tight group. But I think to kind of have been adopted, I suppose, and taken on as one of them was brilliant. It's a really tight community down there as well, and to have really been welcomed so well, I suppose, and so openly was so nice to experience. The games that we played in, were brilliant. They're some of the most exciting games I've played in. The Cork Championship has a brilliant structure. There's kind of a divisional team where junior clubs can pool together. So we played a fantastic team in West Cork. It was a really tough match. A lot of kind of intercounty players playing. So it was brilliant to experience that. And then to get to go on the journey then and I suppose kind of get in and in on the rivalry with them and Ballymacarby from Waterford and to win a Munster final was brilliant. It's funny to say that you've won a Leinster and a Munster final in the 1 year, but yeah, it was nice to have done it. And then look, the pure drama, I suppose, of the All Ireland final was brilliant. Obviously club is so parochial, so tight. A lot of kind of sisters and family members on both teams. So, you could see how much it meant to everybody, within the community and what the club kind of represents for the community as well. And I think to have been able to win something with them was brilliant. But yeah, look, it was one of the most exciting matches I think I've ever been involved in. I don't think I've ever been involved in a match that had so much, I suppose, drama, going right down to the wire to the last minute. And then, for Laura Fitzgerald to kick that point in the way she did was brilliant. You couldn't ask for a nicer girl to have done it. Yeah, it was just great fun. It was such a good experience, to get to have done, and something that like I would absolutely treasure and put on the same level as the All Ireland finals with Dublin as well, and the All Ireland wins with Dublin as well. And yeah, it was nice, I suppose, to kind of put county rivalries aside and really get to know the girls and achieve something with them as well. The O'Sullivans and Emer Meany and Morag Allen are phenomenal players. So it was a privilege to have been able to play with them as well. So I suppose my two probably most memorable matches, the one for they're both from Dublin. I think the most memorable one, firstly, would have been the All Ireland semi final in 2016 against Mayo. It was up in Cavan in Breffni Park. It was a gorgeous evening. I think it was a Saturday evening. There was a real bite to the crowd and to the match as well. It was just snip and tuck the whole way. Like we started off very well, but Mayo came back into it so strongly, and it was level with kind of the last few minutes. I think with the last minute to go, I think with the last kick of the ball, somebody played a ball down. I think Lucy Collins played a ball down to Sinead Ahern on the kind of outside of the left wing, and she was fouled, and it was buzzer beater. She had a free to take. It was a draw game, and I was the captain that year, and she yeah, she nailed it. I think it was probably watching the ball go between the posts and knowing that match was over at that time. It was just pure elation. It was it was really exciting. It was phenomenal, and then to kind of to know that you were going to be in an All Ireland final again was brilliant. Yeah, it was just pure drama. It was a really good match to be involved in. It's kind of definitely one of my favorite matches that I've played in. And then following on from that, I think look, the All Ireland final in 2017 for me was just brilliant. As I said before, just kind of banishing any of those demons, just the shackles coming off, and us kind of finally getting over the line was brilliant. I think the manner in which we won it was really special. We'd kind of said all along that it was always going to be a team effort that had won it, and I think a lot of the time that can fall on deaf ears. But we lost Sinead Finnegan early on in the match, and Dee Murphy came in, did a fantastic job. Sarah McCaffrey came off the bench, scored 2 goals. Hannah O'Neill, Molly Lamb coming on, setting up goals as well. Fiona Hudson, getting blocks in the last minute as well, real body in the line stuff. So it was just a complete, for me, real team performance and team achievement, and it was completely justified, I think, way to win it, given the journey that we'd all been on together for the previous 3 to 4 years. So I think for me that was probably the sweetest one that we'd won. Yeah, I think that there's probably a few pieces of advice that I'd give. The first one that I'd give would be to practice with both your feet. I think develop the skills of the game as much as you can. I think forget about fitness and things like that, especially when you're younger. If you can, if you've good skills, it'll get you very, very far. I think listen to your coaches and be coachable is important as well. Always constantly, no matter what stage you're at, be willing to learn and adapt, and listen to criticism as much as praise. And I think then finally is just believe in yourself. There'll be people who think that you're not good enough, or you may just be a little bit of a late bloomer in coming on. But I think if it's something, first of all, that you enjoy, and I think if it's something that you really want to achieve, I think if you put your mind to it, don't let people set you down just because one person tells you that you're not good enough. There's plenty of players, look around, even within Dublin. Martha Byrne, Brennan Brogan never made underage teams. So I think just keep applying yourself, and yeah, that there'd be kind of my three main pieces of advice. Looking back, it's almost hard to pick one highlight. I think it's probably more of a general highlight. I think the transition that we made from being perennial losers, I suppose, to losing three in a row, to kind of turning that on its head, winning as emphatically as we did, and kind of overcoming that. And then I think not only overcoming it, but really going from strength to strength, and changing our whole mindset and really establishing ourselves as kind of a team that's very hard to beat, and kind of really believes in ourselves, because it would have been very easy for us to just admit defeat and put the white flag up at kind of any of the stages after we lost All Ireland finals. But we just persisted and kept at it, and I think that for me is probably my biggest takeaway, and the proudest thing that I kind of could have said, is that we persevered.